super excited to be here. I am going to share my screen. I'm going to be going back and forth because I'm very visual, and so I love to show pictures. And thank you again, Dr. Quesada, for this great opportunity. And I'm going to share something about San Benito that I'm very proud of. And so thank you again, San Benito CISD, for allowing me to be here. Thank you to Miss Cindy, who is allowing people to come in as we have this session, because I can hear the bell going off. So that means there's people in the waiting room and they're coming in. So thank you, Miss Cindy, for letting them in. I'm going to start off real quick with just a very short, what's the word that I'm looking for? A couple of seconds of silence, right? A moment of silence as we're looking at March 2020, when our lives were changed, right? And maybe in March 2020, the only person that we knew that had COVID was Tom Hanks, the famous actor, right? And now, if we stop and think, and I want, if we stop and think, all of us know somebody that has passed away from COVID. We all know somebody who has lost their job or their home, or we know all the tough and difficult things that are happening. And even though, we have keynotes and we have sessions, we still cannot ignore what is going on, because when we go through trauma, life goes on, right? And the sun comes up in the morning and we have to keep going. And sometimes we even feel guilty that, okay, I have to keep going, but for somebody else, their life has stopped, right? And so I respect that with all my heart. And so right now we're just honoring all the friends and family, people that you knew, right? Or someone someone that knows someone. And so I just want to start with that to honor them. Another thing that I want to share with you is that once a greyhound, always a greyhound. And this is a picture of me when my family went through this horrible trauma many years ago. We moved to the Valley, and I applied at every district you can imagine. Name the district, I applied to it, right? And I had such a hard time finding a teaching job. And guess who gave me the first opportunity here in the Rio Grande Valley? It was San Benito. I will never, ever forget it. And even though now my husband, left San Benito and he started coaching in other places, I would always say, once a greyhound, always a greyhound. And he would say, stop it. We're not in San Benito anymore. And I would say, I'm sorry. Once a greyhound. I mean, that was embedded into my brain. So this is a picture of us. Our daughter went to school there in San Benito. And, I worked there for 2 years. And here is me with the mascot. As you can see, it's a little blurry, but I loved San Benito. And I made so many friends there. And I appreciate you guys forever and ever. And every time I go to San Benito, that's the first thing I say. You were the first district that believed in me when I moved here, and gave me an opportunity. And for that, I am always grateful. And for that, we are always family. Now, this is us here now. This is our family. Everybody's grown up, right? Some of us have gained weight and gotten older, right? Now, if you see those two arrows, those arrows are pointing to the 2 kids that I still have in school right now. I have an 8-year-old and I have a 15 or 16-year-old. Once you have 5 kids, you kind of forget their age, right? Okay, and so he's a junior and she is a 3rd grader. And I'm bringing this up to you because this whole keynote is about social emotional well-being, right, for teachers. Many of you are teachers and also parents or caregivers. My mother lives with us. She's 82 years old. The other day, I'm not kidding you, I was in the middle of a session and she came up to me, even though I tell them, guys, when I'm in a session, please do not come into the office, do not slam doors, do not, scream at the top of your lungs. But it's like you tell them that you want them to do it, right? So she comes in and she tells me in Spanish, o me llevas al HEB ahorita o agarro un taxi, or you take me to the HEB right now or I'm going to take a taxi. And I wanted to say, there's no more taxis, they're called Ubers, but I knew at that moment I had to make that happen, right? Because if not, we were going to have, and so we think about everything that's going through with us in our minds, everything that we're expressing, everything that we're experiencing as teachers. right? And so I want to share that with you. Okay. Now, what I don't want you to forget is I don't want you to forget that we are teachers, right? And maybe some of you might say, excuse me, I'm an administrator. Okay, well, you were a teacher at one time, right? What do teachers do? We make it work, okay? We make it work anywhere, anytime, with or without, okay? Oh, man, we don't have enough books for your class. What do? We make it work, right? And I'm not just saying, I'm saying every district. So don't go out and say, oh, she was saying somebody. No. Every district. I've worked in maybe like 8 different districts. Oh, I'm missing paper and pencil. Oh, you know what? The lady who's supposed to give it to us is absent or whatever it is. But what do we do as teachers? We make it work. How many times we were going to get observed by our principal, right? We have everything perfect, everything done. And that day, the internet goes out, right? Or something doesn't work. And what did we do? We didn't say, oh, stop, principal. Can you come back tomorrow to observe me? It'll be a better day. Today's not a good day. No, we keep going, right? And so with that, I want to share with you that this is very deep and very important. And I'm going to go back to stop sharing so that I can have a conversation with you and see your beautiful faces. Is that right now we are experiencing trauma, right? And trauma is an emotional shock. It's a stressful event. And for some people, we have traumatic experiences that are tragic. For some of us, we have traumatic experiences that shake us to our core. There's many different types of trauma. And because I experienced trauma many years ago, it was a horrific situation. And those of you that know me and have been in my sessions before, you know the story. I have learned that trauma is a crisis, right? And when we were going through this COVID, I started recognizing, wow, this is trauma. This is a traumatic event that is happening, not just for our kids and our parents. Primarily, I'm talking to you as teachers and educators, to us. So the one thing that I know and that I've discovered from being a teacher myself, having teacher friends, doing a couple of little surveys here and there, reading from different universities, the different surveys that are popping up, right, is that we are not okay. Us as teachers right now in this moment, we are not okay. Now, you might have somebody that says, oh, I'm okay. I'm good. No, you're not. Stop lying, okay? We are not okay. Now, I'm not saying that that some people cannot be okay. They can, but even at the end of the day, when you put your head to go to sleep, you're worried. You're thinking about your students, about your family members, about your job. Am I going back to work Monday? Am I not? I still haven't received the email because the state hasn't made up their mind, or the judge, or whatever, right? We are not okay. So as I'm finding out and learning about teachers and parents, right, we know these are the themes that kept coming up in the surveys and in the questions, right? Teachers are hurting. They are stressed. We are stressed. We are afraid. Some of us are angry, like, if anybody says anything to me, I'm going to snap, right? Some of us are over it, right? I might say, you know what, I'm so over it. Yeah, okay, I'm over it, but we still have to keep going, right? Some of us are sad, depressed, scared, because we don't know what is happening. We can no longer plan like we used to plan. We can't. Maybe we make a plan and then it can't. Like, for example, I was going to have a book reveal on Saturday. I already planned for it. Because of safety, the judge in our county said no huge events. Even if they're outside, I had to cancel. And that's okay, because now we have learned to go with it, right? We have learned to remain strong. So with this, I'm going to share something very special with you, something that I grew up with. And when I started, I didn't jump in saying a couple of things about me. Number one, of course, that I'm a Greyhound. Once a Greyhound, always a Greyhound, right? If they hear me in Westlaco, they're going to be like, hey, what's going on with you, right? And I'll tell them they gave me my first job, okay? Number two, I'm a storyteller. I love to tell stories that are true and real, that connect with us. I love to code switch, Inglés, Español, Español, Inglés. And if people say to me, why are you code switching? Excuse me, it's called translanguaging. It is a gift, high order, right? I also love tacos de trompo, San Benito. When I used to go in person, the first place I would go to as soon as they said lunch is La Vaquita. Tacos de trompo right there by Miller Jordan. OMG, right? And I served in the U.S. Army Reserves as an immigrant 100 years ago, right after high school. So I have a lot of crazy experiences, and then, of course, the experience of being a teacher. So here is my hook for you as far as this keynote. Many of you that grew up like me grew up learning about this guy, right? And he would say, no contaban con mi astucia, right? No contaban con mi astucia. Whenever something happened, whenever there was a stressful event, whenever something chaotic happened that nobody knew what to do, he would pop out of nowhere and he would say, no contaban con mi astucia. Now, what does that even mean? Now, even though I'm going to translate it, right? But it's kind of one of those things that you can translate, but not really. But basically what he meant is nobody was counting on my cunningness, on being, that I'm cunning. Nobody was counting that I had what it took or that I have what it took. Nobody was counting on it, right? So now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your beautiful faces again. So in this whole COVID thing that we're experiencing, we know that it's not going away tomorrow, right? Yes, can we throw a tantrum? Absolutely. We are entitled to it. I have thrown tantrums too. Like, I can't handle it, whatever, right? Number one, it's very important, my teacher friends, that we build a community. What does that mean? That we stay connected with each other, with our friends, with our colleagues, with our teachers, because we need each other. Now, it's also important that we stay connected with positive people because energy is contagious. Research shows it, right? If I was here talking to you and I would say, guys, hijo eso, good luck, you guys. I don't even know how we're going to make it. All of us would be feeling the same way because energy is contagious. So we need to have community. Why do we need to have community? Because we need to talk to people about what we're feeling. Many of us think, I'm the only one. I'm the worst teacher in the world because I don't like Google Classroom or because I still haven't learned or because my kids aren't logging in. No, everybody is feeling the same way. I will tell you, and I'm going to be very honest with you. About a week and a half ago, I had a really tough day. Well, actually, it's been crazy. But that day, I was missing my dad. My daughter's teacher had gone to go meet her in an event, which I thought was the most beautiful gift, right? Because it just played out the kindness of teachers. And I was just feeling, everything was coming to me, right? And I was driving and I said to myself, yeah, that's it. I'm over this. I'm over it. Maybe I said a couple of bad words, right? I'm over it. And all I could think of is, okay, pues you're over it. What else? Like, life still goes on. And all I could think of, my beautiful teacher friends, which I see so many here that I recognize and that I remember, and you know who you are. I remember telling myself, well, who do I get to call? Because I do the sessions on social emotional learning. I mean, who do I get to call, right? I mean, yes, I pray and all that, but whose session am I going to go to, right? So that I can feel better, because I was really wanting to cry, and I think crying is good. So you know what I did? I called my friend, a teacher in Harlingen, and I said, you know, Kathy, I'm having a tough day. And she said, hey, you know, you can call me anytime. And what happened is I started talking about what was going on with my son, David, who was failing 20 classes, although he only has 6, right? Because he believes that if a class assignment is due at midnight, he believes he can turn it in at 11:59. Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? And so we were talking, and she started telling me stories that were going on in her class. She said, hey, I have a little boy in kinder, and I turned on the Zoom to have class, and the little boy was like, Miss, hold on, I got to put on my underwears, you know? And she was like, oh, my God, right? So these are, and of course, nobody saw because the little boy didn't have the camera on. But these are things that happen, right? And so after a while, I was laughing, she was laughing. She's like, we're going to get through this. We've gotten through worse, right? The next thing that I feel is very important is that you need to stop and check yourself and be proud of yourself. How many times as teachers do you give kids extra credit? Miss, can I have extra credit? Oh, well, you're flunking. I mean, come on, grades are due in 5 minutes. I know, miss, can I have extra credit? And what do? We help the student, give them extra credit or whatever, right? Maybe bring me a taco, you might have an extra credit, right? Especially if it's from La Vaquita. But how many times do you give yourself extra credit? How many times do you stop there and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing the best that I can. I am doing the best that I can under these circumstances. There's a book that I had read a while back. I want to say it was a Brené Brown book, and she was talking about how they were on a flight. And there was this lady on the flight, and she had a little baby. And it was a 2-year-old, right? And the 2-year-old was crying and screaming and everybody would keep looking back like, oh, this kid, right? Cállenlo, be quiet. And nobody was helping. They were just looking and rolling their eyes like, oh my God, right? The lady turns around and yells to everybody and says, holding the baby, trying to get the baby to be quiet, saying, I'm trying the best that I can. I'm trying the best that I can, right? And everybody on that plane felt bad. So what I want you to do is I want you to recognize, what have you learned during March? A lot, okay? What have you been able to go through? A lot, right? So what happens is 10 years from now, maybe you'll be mentoring a student teacher and that student teacher tells you, oh, this is so hard. You can say, sweetie pie, I taught during COVID and my laptop didn't work for 2 weeks and I made it work. What are you talking about? Recognize what you are doing. You are doing the best that you can and you are doing amazing, okay? Don't allow all this negativity, que, oh, teachers, y que this and that. Do you want to switch places with me and teach my class online? Let's do it. Because you know what I've been thinking about? Only the teachers know what we're going through. Only the teachers know, right? The teacher knows that you're teaching class, and guess what? You have parents in the background watching what you're doing. So imagine having your principal doing an evaluation and all your 25 parents there. Ay, mira la maestra. Ay, look at her house. Oh, she needs to clean up. I have seen it and I have heard it, guys, right? So only we know what we're going through, right? Our superintendents and our board members and our administrators, everybody's trying really hard to help us. But at the end of the day, who knows the reality? Only us. So make sure that you give yourself that credit and that you say, you know what? I'm not going to be looking at the negatives today. I'm going to be looking at the positives. And the positive is that now I'm a professional in Zoom. Now I'm a professional in Google, right? One time, and this is something that is very true, research shows that when people go through trauma, difficult events, there's 2 things that could happen. One, we break down and we give up and we turn into like very bad people, negative people. Or we can use that experience as something positive to help us grow, right? So I remember going to therapy for the trauma that I survived, right? And I remember the therapist asking me this, and this is something that I want you to think about. And she said to me, well, I'm going to say to you, look at yourself on March 13th, 2020. For many of us, we were getting ready to go to spring break. Party time, you know, I'm going to wake up late. Look at the person you were that Friday. Maybe you didn't go to work, okay? Who now forward to October 28th, who are you today? Are you a different person for the better? Okay? Do you have more knowledge and skill and patience and compassion? Are you a different person? Yes. If you are not a different person, if you're still the same person, then really we haven't grown. But I know everybody here has grown. Something else that's very important to me as a teacher and as a parent and just an advocate for kids is that also show grace to your students. By showing grace, we're giving grace to ourselves. So what does that look like? You know, maybe your student's not logging in, and I've heard it 1,000 times. No, hombre, these kids, they don't care. They don't care. Nobody has even paid attention, logged in, or whatever. Well, sometimes if we were to find out the reason, we would be able to understand. So to give you a story, my daughter-in-law shared with me that she had a student in high school who messaged her and told her, "Ma'am, my parents work, my sister and my brother work. I'm watching my nieces and nephews. I have them all in the living room with their little laptops and whatever we can find. And I am the one logging them in, logging them out. There's no way, ma'am, that I could be in your class at the same time." Right? So what do? We show grace. I will help you. I will figure it out. Bend a little. Compromise. Me as a parent, at the beginning, I started, this is going to be your desk and you're not going to move from it. Con la chancla right here. You know what? The other day, my kid said, please, can I do my work from this other place? And I said, you know what? Let's compromise. If you can do it and you can make it happen, that's fine. Okay? Learn to compromise, right? My best friend shared with me for kinder. She said, I have a kid every morning in class with a blanket on him. I have another one that doesn't wear a shirt, right? And I have another one with a chupon in her mouth. And I have another one with a bottle. She's like, you know what? I'm going to compromise. Are they doing the work? Are they participating? Yes. But they are not in class, in a regular class. And so they're feeling nervous and scared just the way you are. And so you yourself should also bend a little for yourself. Okay? I'm a rule breaker, but for good, you know. And sometimes kids like those surprises. You know what, boys and girls? I told you that I was going to give you a test. But maybe right now, I just want us to have a little fun activity. And I want you just be innovative. And it's okay to change our path because we need it. Now, people ask, what is well-being? You know, we talk about social emotional well-being. Well, the definition of well-being is exactly that, being well. And recognizing what that looks like. Like the other day that I told you, I was not well. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Go listen to one of my sessions or what? Right? And then I was like, well, read one of your books, you know, genius, whatever. Well, no, I knew what I needed at the time. And that moment was to talk to somebody. To talk to somebody that could understand me, that could support me so that we could be a community. Something else that's very important in social emotional learning is that you treat yourself. And this is something that I believe in wholeheartedly. And I always share it in all of my sessions. If you have access to the show Parks and Recreations, there's actually an episode there where they talk about treating themselves. And I got this idea many years ago when I saw the episode. I actually go out and buy on birthday cakes, right? On birthday cake it's not your birthday, but you go and you buy a cake, okay? What we need to do is we need to have boundaries, right? And that's why, to me, treating yourself is a form of boundaries. You know, I am going to sleep in an extra 5 minutes today. I'm going to do something nice for myself. Sometimes we do something nice for our coworkers, right? Or people that are struggling, or our kids, or our students. But when do we sit and do something nice for us? You know what? My boundary is that I'm going to shut the computer down at 5. I'm not going to stay working on the computer till 10 tonight. I just can't. I won't. Okay? Does that mean that you're the worst teacher in the world? No. Does that mean that you're the worst principal in the world? No. It just means that you need to take care of yourself, because if you are not well, your teachers, your students are not going to be well. Stress is contagious, right? It is contagious. It is something that even research shows us that how we feel and how we talk to people, it is absolutely contagious. So to me, when I'm looking at treating yourself, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and buy things, you know, but if you want to, that's fine. You know what? I'm going to go buy me the biggest cupcake I can buy me, and I am going to chow it down, okay? That's what I need. Maybe today I need to tell somebody, I'm sorry, I cannot help you with this today. But maybe tomorrow we can work on it, right? Those are boundaries that we need to do for ourselves. Now, we are living in a time that we cannot go and find another time like this. This is the reality. We are living it. Everything else that people might tell you really is an illusion, because we get to create on our own. If somebody were to tell me, E.T., what? Nobody has heard of a 30-minute keynote? Well, did you write the book on how keynotes should be? Well, no. Well, then I'm creating my own rules, right? Or what? In your Zoom, you're actually having your kids get up and participate in your Zoom and do a little dance? Yes, I am. Okay? Because we are creating the new teaching style, the new teaching formats. I am a strong believer in affirmation, in telling ourselves positiveness always. And sometimes we tell ourselves, what if everything went wrong? Well, what if everything went right? Right? And for me, what I want to leave you with is to recognize that you are not alone. I'm telling you, 2 weeks ago, I received an email from a counselor in Mississippi, right, that had purchased my workbook. And she was asking how we are, and this is what she said to me. She said, we're having a lot of trouble with our kids. They're not logging into Zoom. They're not logging into the classrooms. It's very hard for us to reach them. What are you all doing in Texas, right? And what did I recognize right away? We're experiencing the same things, right? She's in Mississippi thinking that maybe here in Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, we're not experiencing these scenarios, but we are. Do you see how united we are? We are more closer to each other than you think everywhere you go. So most important to me is that you have your community. And let's say that you don't have a community. You're like, nobody talks to me at my school, right? And I'll share that with you because I'll never forget. I was at a campus once, and I'm not going to say the district. And it was already, this is a true story. All my stories are true. But I'll never forget, I had seen this person August, September, October, throughout the year, but we never talked. I thought it was a sub, because you know how sometimes subs don't talk. They just real quiet and they walk. And so it happened that our kids were testing, so they moved me to another hall for a week. And I saw the teacher. I recognized it was like a real teacher. It wasn't a sub. This is a true story, guys. I went inside the classroom and I said, hey, ma'am, my name's E.T. and I teach, whatever. I can't believe I've never met you before. And I stuck out my hand. And she said to me, and I quote, I prefer to keep it that way. And she didn't shake hands with me. And I was waiting for like the candid camera people to jump out, or that guy Joaquin from CNN, like, what would you do? I was like, okay, I was waiting, but nobody came up. The lady was for real. She was like, I'm sorry, but I prefer to not meet people, talk to people, okay? If you're in a situation where nobody talks to you, I'm going to post right here on the chat my phone number. And you can text me. And I respond. By the way, I do respond. I respond to people all over the world. Not all over the world, not yet, but all over Texas. If you're having a hard time, you're like, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? And sometimes people text me. They don't tell me who they are. I just respond. And then I wonder what happened with them, because they never responded. Yes, it worked, or no, it did not work. So make sure you have a community, that you have people that you can talk to, that you can share stories. And then of course, be proud of yourself. What have you done? Have you grown? Okay. And by grown, I don't mean have I eaten more. I mean, have I grown in my mind in what I can do? Because what happens is now you become fearless. And I know all of you here have become fearless. So let's say right now, if your computer right now this second were to shut down, okay? You're not going to freak out. You'll be like, oh my God, my computer, it shut down. No. Now you're like, okay, turn it on, charge it. I'm going to wait. They're still going to be there. You see? Now it's different. Maybe 2 years ago, if your computer would have turned off, you would have panicked and called the main office and your principal. You put them into Zoom groups and nobody was talking, right? Nobody. The kids were like nobody was talking. And when you're in Zoom groups, the teacher will jump in from one group to another. And none of the kids were talking. And out of nowhere came this loud voice. Hey, answer the question. Tell me about the author. And then the kids were like, what? And I was like, who is that, right? So the kids were like, who's that? And then this little girl says, oh, it's my dad, right? And so then they started like bickering. Well, he's not the teacher. Que no sé qué, they started getting attitude. All I could think of I was laughing because it was beautiful. Everybody is trying to help. Here was this parent who scared everybody half to death, right? But he wanted to help. Like, he was there and he could see the kids weren't answering, right? And then the teacher jumps in and the teacher's like, hey, everybody, did you talk about it? And they're like, it was so adorable. That's what I'm talking about. Find humor in every situation, right? And be grateful because we're all trying to help each other. And then the last thing, of course, it's okay to bend the rules. Be good to yourself. Treat yourself. Have grace for others, right? When you see your friends struggling, give them a break. Oh, I cannot believe it. We have a Zoom meeting and they're not here yet. 2 minutes late. Wow. You don't know if at home they have 2-3 kids that they're taking care of. Or they have the 83-year-old grandma that walks in and says, me llevas el HEB right now or I call the police. Okay, you're not taking care of me. We don't know what people are going through, right? We have this grace. So, Dr. Quesada, she was awesome and she purchased these workbooks. There's so many, right? And so this is a workbook that was born during COVID. And here I talk about the truth, the reality of what's happening. I talk about how, I left my cozy job at Region 1 to start my own company. And then COVID showed up and said, hey, how you doing? I'm changing your plans. And what? Oh, my God. And everybody was like, girl, why would you quit during COVID? And I was like, I'm not a mind reader. How was I going to know? Like, thank you for making me feel worse, right? And so I talk about how I went through that, right? And I went through the stress and the fear. But I also talk about, and here you can see pictures of my kids with their favorite teachers, things that we are missing, right? So here's like the 100th day of school, Alina, that we're missing, that I know you're missing. Look at that, the high school teacher with my kids, right? And so I talk about that, and I also give you a list of 20 things that you can do to treat yourself, okay, that are free, because we need to look at ourselves in that way. And then the last thing is, own it, you guys, because you carry the crown. Nobody knows what you're going through. Nobody knows what you're going through. So the next time somebody says to you, oye, ¿qué pasó? Like, what's going on with you? No que teacher, que you're the best. Hey, I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm sure you are doing the best that you can too. So be positive, guys. On there, you're going to see the link where you type in your name and your school campus. And then Dr. Quesada and her awesome team, they're going to get that workbook out to you. And my cell number is there. It's even in my workbook, okay? Because I don't just say it, I mean it. You need community, you message me. And we're in this together. So remember, no contaban con mi astucia. Nadie contaba con nuestra astucia. Nobody recognized that we are teachers. And as teachers, we make things happen, right? We fix it. If we don't have it, we figure it out, right? So this COVID thing, like we say in my and not taking away the trauma that we have experienced. But the way my grandma would say, me hace los mandados, right? I am a teacher, and I am a teacher for a reason. I didn't go to college to be an online teacher, but right now this is what it takes, and this is what I'm going to do. So thank you so much. I'm going to give it back to Dr. Quesada to see if she has any closing statements before you continue with your symposium.